Following the galloping herd of wild horses that I showed you in my last episode took us deep into the Kruzi Plateau. As we went off the beaten path, we have experienced the surface that made me wonder how is it possible that the horses do not break their legs while galloping over these countless stones. But miraculously, it does not happen, even though from the pounding on the rocks car perspective, it seemed impossible. I read there were only 2 watering holes for horses on the entire plateau, and while heading towards Glavica, we managed to come across one of them, where one of the herds was taking a bath. However, we left them alone and took a last look at these beautiful animals enjoying their unrestrained freedom, and we continued towards the northwest. This departure from the trail was a perfect opportunity to activate Kira, so heading towards the town of Dragnic, I allowed her to run for a few minutes. After a few hundred meters, we found ourselves on a pass with a beautiful view of the valley called Glomachko Polje. The field is located between 4 mountains at an altitude of 883 meters and stretches from northwest to southeast for about 45 kilometers. It is 12 kilometers wide in the central part and narrowest between Vidimlia and Osoy, where the surrounding slopes are only 700 meters away. After passing Dragnic, we drove along the north side of the field, passing many devastated and abandoned houses. The area seemed very deserted. The farther road did not add anything significant to this journey until the moment when, after passing Glamoch, I suddenly saw a barrier blocking the passage. It seemed that I would have to look for a detour, so I started slowly to retreat, although my map showed that there was little alternative to this route. But fortunately, a man came out of the barracks on the left and, having opened the barrier, allowed me to pass. This point was located here. From this place, we followed some side roads almost all the time until we reached the last place planned for this trip, Zatorsko Lake. The place where I stayed was very picturesque. It took me several minutes to find a flat enough area to level the car, but when I finally did, I started preparing the camp. I raised the roof, spread the canopy over the entrance, and before I took out the rest of the camping equipment, I decided to start repairing the cyclone filter, which had been pulled off by branches several times while breaking through the thick bushes during this trip. The only reason I didn't lose the cyclonic pre-cleaner is because I secured it with the zip tie. As you can see, the plastic element that is slipped onto the snorkel was completely damaged in several places, so it's no wonder that the filter could not be properly fixed. The only option available to fix this in the field was to use a gaffer tape. Yes, it is the same tape that was invented for use on film and photography sets. Its adhesive chemical composition makes it both strong enough to stick to any surface as well as easy to remove later on. It also has a high melting point, so you can use it to fix things that often get extremely hot. I always carry a roll with me because its durability and versatility have been proven many times. In my case, it was not only about properly attaching the filter, but also about sealing the connection, and the tape fulfilled both of these objectives perfectly. I tightened the hose clamp with which the pre-cleaner was originally fixed, just in case, because the tape attachment itself seemed very strong.
And just for security.
That's right. And finally, a zip tie, in case the mountain was not that great as it seemed.
It's better than it was.
It's good that I started to work immediately after arriving because the afternoon was quite cloudy and even more windy. The sky was covered with a thick suspension of grey clouds. It was quite cold, there was moisture in the air, and it looked like it might start raining at any moment. Since I was staying in a place where somebody had already camped before, I thought I would use the existing fireplace and the wood lying around to make a fire. However, having no kindling and only damp wood, my efforts ended in failure after several dozen minutes of attempts. By this time, it had already become dark, so after turning on the work light, not immediately on the right side, I tried to fight with the fire for a while, but this time it didn't work. So after eating dinner, I went to sleep, hoping that the next day would greet us with sunny weather. And it greeted us with sunshine indeed. Therefore, I was happy to immerse myself in the crystal clear waters of Lake Satorsko and enjoy the views. Both those above the water surface, but also with curiosity I looked at the inhabitants of the surrounding bushes. I'm not a snake expert, so I have no idea what kind of snake it was, but a small head sticking out above the water caught my attention, so I decided to take a closer look at it. However, it quickly fled into the thicket of water vegetation, so I also moved back above the surface. Having changed the place and clothes, I dived into this colorful underwater world again for a moment, wondering if I would be able to spot something interesting again. But as I didn't see any other interesting animals, after a few minutes I went on a mountain walk with Kira. We planned to reach the top of Veliki Sator. Taking into account that the lake is located at an altitude of 1488 meters above sea level and the peak is 1872 meters high, we had to overcome about 400 meters of elevation spread over almost 3 kilometers of walking. At first, the path was very steep. In some places, I had to take quite big steps to climb this rocky path, and there were moments like here when Kira had problems with overcoming them on her short legs. Encountering such an obstacle, it looked like she had an idea to go back, but fortunately, she was a brave girl that did not give up, and having gained some momentum, she overcame such obstacles like a storm. Farther walk was relatively easy. It was not a very busy trail, rather a path trodden by tourists among mountain vegetation. And even though we were alone at the lake, we encountered other people coming down from the peak. As you can see, this trail was definitely a bigger challenge for Kira than for myself.
After spending 2 weeks in the car, not having much of opportunities, this climb was a killer. And I would say it was even worse for Kira. Look at her on her short legs. How difficult this climb must have been. But we're on the top. Yeah.
At the top, I provided water for Kira to hydrate and cool her down. The foldable fabric bowl was perfect option for such conditions, weighing almost nothing and allowing me to save water, half of which would have spilled if I let her drink from a bottle. Of course, I picked the drone up here as well and shot some views, but this footage mysteriously disappeared from my hard drive. So you'll have to be content with only the panorama recorded with a handheld camera. And this is to show you how our rest at the top was made pleasant by millions of flies. We also spent 2 days in this location. The weather was perfect until the very end. It was nicely warm, not hot. So spending time outside surrounded by such nature was a great pleasure. The day continued with the rhythm of standard camping activities. Our place was even equipped with a table that someone must have left there earlier, so I started preparing a meal in our kitchen and Kira cleaned herself after the walk and swimming in the lake. It was a very, very good time. We enjoyed each other's company and I would never thought, not even for a moment, that this might be our last trip together. Nothing at that time foreshadowed the tragedy that happened half a year later when Kira unexpectedly passed away, taking everything that connected me with my past life away.
Steady as you go. Say goodbye before you've said hello. Bonds will break and friends will fall, and the ones you've left behind will carry on.